everyone, it's Emily and little Inca here. Today I'm going to call this video something like cute or creepy, why do we like the dolls that we like? Something along those lines. And I feel like it's going to sound a little bit convoluted, but this is just like a topic that I really wanted to share and that I've been thinking about a lot lately because I've been studying actually, and so it all kind of relates, which is, yeah, I guess that's just the mini explanation of why on earth I'm going to be talking about DNA and chromosomes. So I'm learning about heredity at the moment, and it is such like a fascinating like subject in general that I don't know, when I was at school all those many years ago, I really didn't enjoy learning about that kind of stuff. Like, I did enjoy biology, but I didn't enjoy learning about, I don't know, why some people are short or tall, why some people have blue eyes, heredity basically. It wasn't something that ever interested me. Biology like always used to interest me much more in like the environmental side of it. But anyway, I've actually become like super into learning about this. And I came across an article the other day, and it was called, what was it called? I have it here. Why You Like What You Like. And it was an article by a microbiologist called Bill Sullivan. And it was so, sorry, look, the sun just came out. How pretty was that? Anyway, sorry, it was so interesting. It was talking about how, in short, it was talking about the fact that we think that sort of our personalities and everything that we like and dislike are kind of intrinsic to, our brains and sort of who we are. But actually, so much of who we are, what we like and dislike, even who we vote for, is controlled by our biology, our genes, our DNA. And it was just such an interesting article, and it really got me thinking about reborns, because I have friends who are totally creeped out by them. I mean, like, they don't want to look at them. They when I first showed one of my babies to one of my friends back in the day, they were like, how do you sleep in the same room as that thing? Really, they said. Most of my friends actually are like super supportive, but a few of them just like really dislike the dolls. Don't dislike me, but dislike the dolls. Yes, so I have the article here, and it talks about this D4 receptor gene, and basically there is evidence that this gene influences whether you vote left or right, which, I mean, that just kind of blew my mind. And the reason that it does is because it's a gene that has been like tied to either being a risk taker and like novelty seeking, or obviously being the opposite, and preferring stability and safety like over everything else. And I was just thinking, I wonder if there is some kind of genetic component which means that we either get creeped out by uber realistic looking things, the whole uncanny valley, sorry, I can't speak, thing, or maybe there is a genetic component which means that we just can see past it because we are just kind of obsessed with babies. I don't know. I definitely think that like some people are just innately more drawn to babies than others. Like, I mean, definitely in terms of people that I know, like my grandmother and me are both obsessed with babies. I mean, my grandmother I mean, she will see a baby and just go and just melt, you know. And but my mother is not like that at all. Like I don't know, she doesn't feel it. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't feel that kind of explosion of her ovaries, if that makes sense. Um, and I have friends who are exactly the same. I think actually, to be honest, I have a lot of friends that just don't really have that baby thing. But it's just funny because, you know, that isn't a choice. You know, that's not a choice somebody makes to whether to, you know, like or not like babies. Or I don't know. It's just it's really interesting to think about, and this whole area of science interests me so much because it just I don't know, it's kind of comforting to think that we don't have as much control over our likes, our dislikes, our tastes, and almost sort of who we who we are as a person as we think we do. I mean, in some ways that's quite an unsettling thought, but in some ways it kind of I don't know. I think that it's I don't know. It's comforting thought for somebody like me who feels responsibility quite hard. Anyway, I got off on a tangent there. In terms of which dolls we actually choose to buy, I definitely think that there's some kind of like primeval thing which makes me think a doll is either cute or not. Um, I think all of my dolls have looked like they could possibly come from me, if that makes sense. And I'm not talking about like skin tone, because their dad could be anyone. I could have mixed my genes with anybody. Um, I mean, like even things like to do with their facial structure and sort of whether they kind of look like you. I don't, I really don't know how to explain it because obviously they're just dolls, but I know my first doll, my first reborn Silky, my mum used to tell me how much she reminded my mum of me when I was a baby. And I used to think, God, that's funny. I've chosen a doll which kind of looks a tiny bit like I did when I was a baby. And I definitely see other collectors doing the same and choosing dolls which remind them a little bit of themselves or, could potentially look like they have, been biologically theirs, I guess. Which is, it's just interesting. And if I'm honest, there are some dolls I come across and, oh, so that was my timer telling me that I'd already been 10 minutes and that I need to wrap it up. Um, yeah, there are some dolls, and I think, as much as I love Reborn, I think, that doll is a little bit creepy. I mean, I have, been very sort of open about the fact that I don't like smiling dolls usually. And sometimes I think is one of the reasons I don't like smiling dolls is because to me that pushes it from natural to unnatural. Because if you think of this kind of facial expression that Inca has, it's very it's very passive. I feel like a baby could have this expression for like more than a second really. And even with frowning babies, I feel like so many babies, like when they go to sleep, they frown and they kind of hold that expression for maybe like a minute or even 30 seconds. But holding a smile, like nobody holds a smile for a very long time, especially if you're a baby, it kind of, it's there and then it's gone. And sometimes I wonder if that is the reason why I struggle to like smiling babies and what sorry Inky and why I would go as far to say as like they actually creep me out some of the time. um yeah, it's a really interesting topic, and I would recommend anybody go and read this article because it is like fascinating. Um, it talks about how people who don't like broccoli, that is influenced by a gene. It talks about how programmed we are to find traits, attractive in a potential mate, and how, healthy healthy looking traits are, of course, the usually the most attractive, and so on and so forth. And the stuff about voting just kind of like blew my mind. And actually stuff about likes and dislikes, you would be surprised. Yeah, just how many things are influenced by things that we actually have no control over, i.e. our genes and our, environmental factors, our childhood, all of this kind of stuff. It's fascinating. So I'm going to end the video there. I guess my conclusion for my crazy ramble is that it is just so amazing to think that there is so much which goes into making a person, and everything that we like or we dislike, even people, it comes from our environment, it comes from our biology, and sometimes you have very little control over what you like, what you dislike. And that's just a very sort of interesting thought to me. The Bill Sullivan, who wrote this article, he ends it by saying that that science has shown that you are not who you think you are, and that he puts it, biological gremlins are driving every action and personality trait you assumed were your own. But then he goes on to say that that knowing this at first may be disheartening, but it puts us in a better position to curb or remedy our adverse behaviours, and also that it sort of helps us to be more empathetic and compassionate, because we could put ourselves in a better position to understand others. So I just thought it was kind of lovely. He said the last line was, perhaps with the confidence that we are not in total control, we can resist the urge to praise or blame and seek understanding instead. So anyway, it was kind of lovely, and I thought I would share it. And yeah, I thought it would be fun to relate it to this little doll hobby. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep warm because it's very cold. If you're anywhere near me in England, it's cold. So yeah, keep warm, drink water, eat healthy food, and me and Inka will be back very soon. Bye.